Hi, this is Phil Shapiro in Tacoma Park, Maryland. I just finished reading a really incredible book, The Son with Two Moms by Tony Hines. This is an author who is in his 20s and he's written his memoirs about being adopted by a lesbian couple, and what a story he has to tell. I cried several times reading this book. He's had a difficult life, but it's a story about resilience, courage, tolerance, and community. So he's an African-American young man. He was adopted by a lesbian white couple in Tacoma Park, Maryland. And his life was filled with all sorts of difficult challenges, as you might expect. There was a custody battle, a custody court case with his grandmother. And so he shares his stories in this book. And what I find really interesting about the book is it deals with so many different themes that America needs to be thinking about and talking about. So his birth mother lives with schizophrenia, and so she couldn't raise him, and he has some really interesting and kind things to say about his mother. So that's something that our country needs to be thinking and talking about, mental illness and how we can best deal with that. So he was raised by this lesbian couple. He talks about the community and the importance of the community. In Tacoma Park, Maryland, where I live and work, it's a very tolerant community. We have 92 nationalities, and tolerance is kind of part of the cultural values here. But I can say that having worked here 10 years, we're tolerant, but we could be more tolerant. And I could be more tolerant. Tolerance and privilege and prejudice, these are all things that every human being struggles with. I see this book as an interesting tool to help people grow in their understanding on these kinds of issues. So one of the parts of the book I found really interesting, he mentions the Tacoma Park Soccer League. So the Soccer League is an institution here. All the little kids play soccer, and with so many different countries here in town, people who are immigrants who come to town, they naturally just join the soccer team. So soccer is part of the community here, and he mentions the Tacoma Park Soccer League. He also mentions the Presbyterian Church, which is just a block or two away from the public library where I work. This church is known to be a very welcoming and tolerant place. It's a safe haven. I like to think of the library as also a safe haven, but it's wonderful that we have different institutions in town where people feel safe, even if they are not, don't look the same as others. An interesting part of the book is where he talks about his one mother, Mary, who was kicked out of her church, but still maintained her faith in God. So that was really interesting, talking about the intersection of religion and gender orientation. Another really interesting part of the book is where he talks about the school that his mother's chose for him. They wanted to find the most tolerant school in this general area. And they did. They found a school, the Friends Community School in College Park, a Quaker school, that he has very positive things to say about, that they were very tolerant and welcoming, and he felt included there. The most powerful chapter in the book is chapter 19. It's called The Beige Suit. So one of his two mothers develops cancer and passes away. And there was a student at his school who made a comment that was an unkind comment. And Tony just responded and physically and either beat up this kid or let him know that his comment wasn't welcome. And so he talks about what it's like being a young African-American male and having to talk to your parents about your reactions, your anger, and things like that. And so that was such a fascinating story I found in the book. I read it more than once to try and understand his perspective and our social expectations. This is a highly recommended book. The Son with Two Moms by Tony Hines here in Tacoma Park, Maryland. I even like the font he chose. He chose a really interesting, easy on the eyes font. And for somebody who's a little bit older, like myself, it really matters that a book is readable from the physical point of view. Oh, and one other thing I wanted to mention. It has a very short preface, this book. I'm going to read you the entire preface. 3 sentences. As of 2012, there were 1,100 children living in same-sex households. This book is a testament to those children. Every one of us has a different story. I can't wait to hear theirs. So that's a pretty incredible thing. I think it takes a lot of courage to write about your own life, especially if your life has been a difficult one. These days, Tony has finished his Master's of Applied Sociology, and he's teaching autistic children in Prince George's County, Maryland. And I met with him. He came by the library, we chatted. I highly recommend this book, The Son with Two Moms. I hope it gets read across the country, because the themes in this book are themes that our country needs to talk about, think about, and grow through so that we can become better people.